Welcome back to the True Roots Podcast, where men find their true identity in Christ through surrender and obedience. Good morning.
Good morning, Andy. You know, as you were saying that, I was thinking, I wonder if he ever just says this in his sleep or something at this point.
It does kind of seem like that.
It's just like, you know, there's definitely an autopilot there. You got it dialed.
Do you remember the first week?
Yeah.
Where
That's why I
know.
think about it so much.
I wasn't sure I could even get it out the first week, and somehow it's coming out now. It's just natural.
Yeah, you're probably like, hi, I'm Andy. Welcome back to the...
I can't wait for the week where it just like doesn't come out. There's been a couple times on the phone at State Farm because we have these aliases that we have to use.
Oh.
And in the middle of the alias,
You mean like you have a false identity?
False identity. I mean,
What's your... Actually, you can't tell me.
I can actually because I say it all the time. It's in my email. It's okay to use. It's VAIQBV. But I always have to say Victor Alpha India Quebec Bravo Victor. Oh. But there's times where I'll get in the middle of it and then all of a sudden my brain's like, I don't remember anymore. I'm like, it's only happened a couple times, but when the autopilot's on, if anything interrupts the autopilot, we're in trouble. Short circuits, it's gone.
Well, okay.
Hey, we've come a long ways.
It's interesting that you have to have an alias. I get it, but...
Yeah.
Kind of a big company.
It is a kind of a big company, yeah. So, I mean, it is my false identity because I'm a shepherd, I'm a healer, I'm going to be someone. No, I'm just kidding. That's just my hope. Wow. God's going to make me work there for 25 years. It's just going to happen. It's going to happen.
Or maybe lifer.
Lifer, so.
Maybe in the President's Club.
Oh, yeah, it'll be good. Hey, actually, it'll be kind of fun. Yeah. You get to travel. Some good thing. Anyways,
I don't know where they go.
Yeah.
Okay, well, hey, welcome back to the True Roots Podcast, where men find their identity in Christ and follow Him.
Not quite.
That's why you do it.
I know. It was close, though.
But welcome back.
Welcome back. So, this week, we're talking about children of the faith.
Or are we?
Yeah, it's a good question.
To be determined.
Yeah.
Commandment number 29. And this one is, I don't know, I mean, I guess it's a little familiar, but it doesn't feel like one that is very practical, I think.
How so?
Well, I'll read it, and then maybe that'll answer the question. See that you do not despise one of these little ones, meaning kids or children. For I tell you that in heaven their angels always see the face of my Father who is in heaven. Matthew 18:10. I think it'd probably be good to read the context of this one a little bit.
Okay.
But, you know, this similar exchange happens in multiple Gospels, so it's not isolated to Matthew. And in the little document that you're supposed to download every week when you listen to this,
every week.
So that you can get the most out of...
We've been seeing so many downloads, too, so we really want to see...
Yeah, don't be the only one.
Yeah,
anyways, in that, make the point that it's not despising physical 5-year-olds or 8-year-olds or children, but spiritual children of the faith. And so the question I asked you right before we got on here was, do you agree with that? And so I'm going to ask you that now because you didn't get a chance to answer it.
Yeah, this is true.
Should we read the context first?
Well, because I was just going to go, I'm going to respond to your question with a question because I want to know where do you see that? Why do you go that direction?
Yeah.
Because I want to know scripturally. Because honestly, in this one, I don't know.
Yeah. And truthfully, before I was preparing for this, I thought always that was little kids.
Yeah.
So Matthew 18, it says this, starting in verse 1.
Yeah.
At that time, the disciples came to Jesus saying, "Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" And calling to him a child, he put him in the midst of them and said, "Truly I say to you, unless you turn and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." So there's a physical child present, but now he's telling adults to be like kids.
Yeah.
Whoever humbles himself like this child, he is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Whoever receives one such child in my name receives me. But whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him to have a great millstone fastened around his neck and to be drowned in the depth of the sea. Woe to the world for temptations to sin, for it is necessary that temptations come, but woe to the man by whom the temptation comes. And if your hand or your foot causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it from you. It is better for you to enter life maimed or lame than with 2 hands or 2 feet to be thrown into the eternal fire. And if your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out and throw it from you. It is better for you to enter life with one eye than with two eyes to be thrown into the hell of fire. See that you do not despise one of these little ones, for I tell you that in heaven their angels always behold the face of my Father who is in heaven. And then he goes on to tell a version of the 99 sheep and the one.
Interesting.
And
that
so
gives a different context for sure.
Yeah, and so reading through in the context, there is an analogy that he's making. It feels like more than it is a direct instruction to adults to care for children. He's talking about faith and the way faith is lived out, and then he's saying you need to be like this. And so then he says, don't despise children. And my reading of it and preparation this time was, he's talking about don't despise children of the faith. He's talking about other disciples. He's talking to adults about where they stand. And his response to all of this is from who's the greatest, and he's like, actually, you should be like, don't forget like these guys. And so that's where that came from. So.
Well, I have a couple of thoughts now with that, because I think there is a both and in this, because I think there is a piece of, like he talks about with the angels, and they always see the face of my Father. I do believe that is talking about kids. Like, I think that piece, I mean, yes, that too, but I think that piece, what he's talking about children, is a piece of the natural, like the real child piece of it. But in the context, and what you're talking about, what's popping in my head is, for one, the story of the prodigal son and the older brother. And then the other thing that's popping in my head is the verses about, if this causes your brother to stumble, then don't do it. Basically, with eating is what it's talking about, right?
Yeah,
with meat So, because that's true. And then also the third piece of it is when we come back to the Lord, when the Lord chases us down, because in the prodigal son, right? Like the Lord runs to his son, and puts a robe on him. All those things. That son is like overjoyed, excited, and we can become the older brother pretty quickly. And I think that's the piece of this within the faith, is we can get to these places, Pharisee type faith. We can get to these places where things are cleaned up, things are looking good, which God has done all of those things. Yeah. But we can get to that place where we're now, you're gonna do that. You're gonna save them. You're gonna help them. And I think that's,
see the things they're doing.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's the warning here. I think that's the like, hey, take a look at this. It's not about who's the greatest, and it's always about those who. What does he say? The least of these. I'm messing this up right now.
No way. That was flowing right out.
It was flowing, but I'm trying to. It's not that verse. It's the greatest versus the least in the kingdom of heaven, and I'm forgetting how it's phrased at the moment. But basically,
there are many of those.
There are many of those phrases, but basically, it's not the one that's up here. It's the one that serves, and that's where the Lord always wants our heart to be. So even as He starts to sanctify us and clean up our lives, and change who we are, and have us walk in our true identity, all of those things, He's like, never forget. Never forget this. And that actually allows us to walk in that joy and that freedom as a child, because we're always that child.
Yeah.
Like, we're always that child of the faith, because we're always dependent on Him.
Mm-hmm. And we're called children.
Yeah.
Repeatedly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does feel like, the more I thought about it from this angle, that he's using a child as like a parable, right? Like an analogy to what he's actually trying to get at. Because he isn't talking about kids. Like, he's talking to adults about adult problems, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's what the context is. And so it does feel right. But I don't think that it is a mutually exclusive thing, right? Like, it isn't. There is something to be said, to say it in the positive, about children and their approach to faith.
Yeah, for
right?
sure. 100%.
Which is why Jesus chooses to use them as the example. And how adults look at children as like, you don't understand.
Yeah.
And Rachel and I have tried to take the posture of like, we don't want to get in the way of their relationship with God with false roadblocks. If they say that they want to follow Jesus, if they say, then like, who are we to say that that's not true?
Yeah.
And But how often do we do that with other people?
Oh,
And the example that comes to mind here of the disciples is like, yeah, Jesus, we saw those dudes over there, doing things in your name, and we told them to stop.
Yeah. I remember.
And Jesus is like, whoa, like if they're doing it in my name, like if they're
for us, they're not against us.
Yeah, and he's like, it doesn't matter that they're not walking with me.
Yeah.
That they're not part of our crew.
Yeah.
And like how often do we do that where it's like, hey, love that you think you're a Christian, but let's make sure.
Yeah.
And like let's make sure you're on the right track and you're in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about Peter. He rebukes Jesus. He denies Jesus, all of these things, and yet he was one of the 12 disciples. It's like he was being refined the whole time,
And like these guys are a hot mess.
Yeah.
But like I think there's two things that come to mind practically for me today when I think about this commandment. The first one is like myself return to that childlike faith. Like, why is it that children and their faith is so innocent and so not hidden. It's like, this is what I think and what I feel and what I believe, and I'm not going to hide that to protect my faith.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it out on the line.
Yeah.
And like, that's faith. Like, it's just this confident boldness. I think about David with when he was praying for his son to be healed and he didn't get healed. And he's like, well, I'm going to be happy now. Like, God did what he wanted to do. He wasn't like afraid to pray for something, and then
that's good.
have it not be answered. And like that kind of a return to faith practically, don't despise that in myself. And then the second thing is to like, I don't know if you had this experience, but getting around people as I've walked with the Lord for a while now, and that moment of like being a child in the faith is far away from me. But I get around people who are new in the faith, and it's so encouraging. And like, there is a temptation to go, well, you don't quite get it, child.
Yeah.
But like they get it almost more sometimes, just like the wonder and the awe of God, and they see him so much more present and real in their life. There's so much more awareness, and it's just like, so it's new, and so everything is recognizable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you had experiences like that?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I was just thinking about our men's group that we have this year, that there are people in there that are newer to the faith, and I've seen both sides of that in my head, like, oh, they don't understand yet. And then, and in some ways, like, yeah, that can be true, but I can tell that my heart, I think there was times where I was like, like, I don't know, it's more of the Pharisee side of it.
Yeah.
And then there's other times where the wonder and the awe, and this is what the Lord's doing, and this is how he's working, and this is what I'm seeing, and I'm just a different man than I was, and you're just sitting there going, this is refreshing.
Yeah,
This is good,
Right.
So.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm always encouraged around people who have genuinely experienced the Lord and are new to the faith, and just like the wonder and awe of that, and like what life with God is like.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so fun.
Well, it's a blast. It's a blast.
And like, I am somebody who's bent towards pride, not humility, unfortunately. Yeah. And so like my pendulum needs to swing, like this way towards the humility side. And so this is a very practical commitment too, of like, okay, what are the subtle ways that I do this? Where I was going to ask you this question too, but I'll say this first.
Okay.
I think a lot of times I define my goodness, just like the disciples were defining their goodness because they were in with Jesus, right? Like, we're following Jesus. We're one of the 12, or we're one of the 50, or whatever the group was. Yeah. Like, we define it by who's not in. Like, I'm in because I know you're not, almost.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm called, because sometimes we feel a little bit uncertain. But if we know that someone else isn't, it can solidify it for us. Like, it comes out of insecurity.
Well, and it's like defining ourselves in the eyes of Christ, not by his commands, but by other people.
Yeah.
and
or not even
where we
just by
land.
what he
Yeah.
says about us.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
like,
yeah, that's true too. Yeah, for sure.
and just letting what Jesus said about you define you. And if
Mm-hmm.
you're uncertain, if I'm uncertain about that, if I'm shaky on that, I have to find ways to solidify my standing. And so then what ends up happening is I despise the children, right? And so I don't know if you have ways that you, like, what are when you think about that idea of like how you define where you're at by looking at what people who are not in, like, what are some of those like buckets that come to mind for you?
It's a good question. I may go a different way than
That's
what
fine.
you might be thinking, but because I lean more on the insecurity doormat side of things than the pride side of things, which is also pride, by the way. So in a lot of ways, it is.
It's all identity driven.
It's self-focused, right?
Yeah.
So it's still pride. It's just different. And so as I was thinking about that, I don't quite often define myself by people who are not following Jesus. I define myself by, am I doing as well as the people who are following Jesus? And
You consider yourself on the outside almost.
yeah. If I'm like looking at it, I'm like, I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing enough. When I'm in those places. And so it's a different, I would say, different perspective maybe. So it might be good to just do both of them, of looking at those places. And it's not to say that I don't judge too. Like it happens, right? But I think that's more so is where I just stay in insecurity because I'm not doing as well as that person is in following Jesus. Or I think that person thinks that I'm not doing as well as they are. And so I'm not who I am in the Lord. And so it's defining myself by their standard, which they may not even have for me, rather than defining myself by the Lord's.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'll land
Yeah.
in those places and those buckets, I guess that you would say. And then what the Lord has me do is to go back to what he says.
Yeah.
And continues to remind me of who he says that I am. And honestly, we've talked about it on here before, but is in this season, he's separated me from a lot of people in a lot of ways. And more so not separating me in community, like I have community, but separating me from relying on the community to give me my identity, because he wants to give me my identity and he wants to speak that identity over me. And he uses people, but it's been amazing in this season how often he hasn't used people because he wants to be the one that tells me.
That's
and he
cool.
wants the word to be what tells me. And so it's this separation so that I can walk in deeper waters with him and really know my identity is from him and not anyone else, which has been really cool. Hard because I had leaned so much on like, I'm going to get a word from someone. I'm going to get this. I'm going to get that. And the Lord still uses those things, but he's been like, hey, I want to speak it over you.
Yeah.
I want it to be from me. So maybe a little bit different direction to go. So I would just flip it back to you
it's
and
just
kind of like,
I
how's
think
that
the
work?
other side of the fence, right?
Yeah.
Like is what it sounds like you find yourself sitting on the outside hoping you're in. Whereas, I think the disciples and myself like found themselves on the inside by knowing who's on the outside.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
there's people
Sure.
out there. And that was the Pharisees, right? Like they were like always concerned with making sure that like, hey, you're not in until, and like to protect what defined their religious identity. And I think that that's an easy place to fall into. And then simultaneously, like once we're in, we then have to compare ourselves inside the population, and that's what these disciples, they're like, where do I stand with these guys?
Yeah.
Who's the greatest? And this is like baked into our culture,
Yeah.
comparison,
Yeah.
right? Our identity is so tied to comparison rather than, and Jesus, like what he's saying is he's like just leveling the playing field because we've all started as children.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's where you ought to be.
Yeah.
Like, hang out here. And it's just an equalizer. Like, Jesus is like, hey, look, you're my child. Be done with it.
Yeah.
And but what's interesting is it's a command.
Yeah.
And it's not a look at yourself command. It's a look at other people command that comes from a where do you think you are, right?
Yeah,
So like you can't
good. Yeah.
accurately look with wrong eyes.
Oh, it's so true.
And so there's like this weird, this is an external command, don't despise the children, but that can't happen until you feel like you are a child. Almost like I don't know if that's like as an adult, as with kids, dude, as much as I want to have the eyes of a child again, so that I can see the world, feel the things they feel the way they feel them, I can't. And unless I like literally think I'm a child. And I think the same's true for us with God and our relationship with him, and then with other people, is like, as much as I want to see it from their perspective, I can't unless I recognize and believe and know that what he said is true, is I'm his child, not his adult son. Anyways, I
think that's huge, because and the thing that you keep pointing it back to is it comes back to this. It's like, it starts here. Who's the greatest?
Well, because I mean, it is starting this way too, though. It's like,
because they want to be the greatest. Yeah. But it's focused on them not being the greatest too, right? Like that's you're right. You're right. Like it is a self-focus with an external comparison, right? And then it comes back to
Jesus doesn't play the game. He goes right back to you, and he's like,
which he always will, by the way. Yeah. Any circumstance that we're going through, like I'm going through a hard circumstance right now that I don't have control of. And that God doesn't keep speaking into the circumstance.
Yeah, he's not like, keep your eyes out there.
Yeah, he's speaking into my identity. And he's speaking into how he wants me to walk it. And he's speaking into who he says that I am. And he's speaking, and it's like, which is way harder, by the way, because then you have to like actually recognize that there might be a plank here. There might be something inside of me that he wants to do. I mean, typically there is something inside of us that he is revealing that he wants to do something with. And I think that's that childlike piece. And as you were talking to, I was thinking about the maturity, because God does also tell us to stop drinking milk and start eating solid food. Well, children eat solid food. So it's like he wants both of those things. He wants us to be like a child, and he wants to sanctify us. He wants us to go on to maturity without forgetting that we're still a child. And yet we're like, I'm mature, I'm not like them anymore.
Shame on these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 1 John, somewhere in 1 John, there's those three categories. There's the children, the young men, and the old men. And it's not physically, it's in spiritual faith, right?
Yeah.
And so there is this maturing in faith, but like for this purpose of not, can you still welcome all of these folks in and remember your day. I think it's Ecclesiastes where it talks about like remembering when you're a child. And so anyways, there's a biblical theme to that of like, hey, as you mature, as you grow, as you are farther away from that moment where you first came to faith, don't forget it. And then don't like leave other people out of it, you know, like, and that's Romans, where you were talking about, I think you mentioned some of the Romans ideas earlier, and Romans 14, 15, where it's like, hey, matters of conscience and stuff. Yeah. Again, Paul isn't like, look at them. He's like, no. You suffer, you sacrifice, you surrender for their good. When they're weak in their faith, you take the road of service. And that's like the heart of what this is. Yeah. When you see someone who's like new in the faith, you serve them. Yeah. You prop them up, you hold them up, and like you don't look down on them, you don't make their road harder, you don't like be the temptation for them. You like better to have a millstone around your neck, you know. Yeah. Anyways.
Well, because we'll end there, but I think just the add on to that is we're supposed to be helping with their walk. Like when they come, it's like, yes, let's go, and now let's walk together. Let's go together. And yet it is that where it's, well, I'm at this place in the faith, so it's not a struggle for me. So I'm just going to do it because they need to learn to not struggle with. It's like, no, that's not what God will ever call us to do.
No, I'm thinking about myself with basketball. Just to give the analogy of what you're talking about, is like when I act out of insecurity in basketball, I'm quick to point out other people's flaws.
Yeah.
So that I'm reminded how good I am.
Yeah.
But when I'm confident, I'm content, I'm like, I recognize people's strengths and I'm celebrating them and I'm for them. But like out of insecurity, I could stand on the podium, be in first place and look down on somebody and be like, ha, you ain't gonna get here, young buck, you know, like, but you know, the mature believer, the mature victor in the faith who's on the podium, who's run the race is going to be like, hey, and pull people up. You know, like that's the posture that Jesus is after. It's like, reach down and bring them with you.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Let's end there. You want to pray?
Sure. Yeah. God, help us to do that. Like, correct our hearts, mine especially, in moments of pride, insecurity, of needing to find identity outside of what you've said by looking at other people and defining my goodness or my inness by what other people are not doing compared to me. And Lord, I pray that instead, from a place of certainty in who you said we are, your children, heirs, more than conquerors, new creations, all of these promises, that out of that confidence and out of that lived experience in maturing, we can say, hey, like, come with me. Let me walk with me. Let me, just like Jesus did with the disciples, just like you've done for us, that we might be able to reach and pull with rather than hold at arm's length to solidify our own standing. God, help us, even this week, would you bring someone to mind that we could do that with and for? Maybe it's our own children, maybe it's someone in our church or a community group or something, but Lord, I pray that we would take this seriously. Like, this is your call, this is your standard, and it should have some weight. And so I just pray that wouldn't be water under the bridge. Praise your name. Amen.
Amen. All right. Have a great week.
Till next time.